A week after we were ready to send Jimmy Garoppolo to the Hall of Fame, the gunslinger is injured.
Well, at least we still have Trevor Siemian, and it might be time to buy stock in Jacoby Brissett. This is AU Nation. Let's get it.
Hello, welcome to AU Nation. Each week we bring together members of the Auburn Student Media Group and discuss the latest topics in sports. I'm Noah Gardner.
And I'm Carter Gustin. Thanks to our producer JJ Jackson and our co-host Evan Blank, who couldn't join us today because he ran out of gas and couldn't get here. On today's show, we'll discuss Auburn's loss to Texas A&M, answer some trivia questions, predict the weekend's biggest games, and finally we'll debate the ACC's decision to move the championship events outside the state of North Carolina due to the HB2 law.
Now, let's introduce today's panel of experts. Our first guest today is Keith Gamble. He is a sports analyst for Eagle Eye TV. Keith, how are you?
Doing well. Thank y'all for having me. I'm really looking forward to being here. I'm excited about it.
That's great. Later, WGL's Brooks Childress will also join us.
Let's get into our first topic. This past weekend, Auburn's loss to Texas A&M was 29-16. Sean White and Auburn's offense struggled to make big plays and was forced to punt 9 times, something Gus Malzahn's offense isn't accustomed to doing. What went wrong for Auburn, and what the Tigers need to do, and maybe even make a change at quarterback?
Well, obviously the offense is a huge problem right now for this football team. They did put up 399 yards, but most of those were by JF3, where he put up, I think, 146 on 3 drives in garbage time.
Right.
So really that's only about 250 yards of legitimate offense, which is just unacceptable for a Gus Malzahn offense. The passing game really needs to step it up to open up any sort of running lanes. Auburn didn't complete 1 pass over 20 yards the entire game. And in the past, the only way that Gus's offense works is if you can complete a deep ball, like Nick Marshall did back in 2013. Just to open up that running game, we need some sort of vertical passing game.
My only question for you is, and you say the passing game needs to step up. The passing game is non-existent, mainly because of play calling right now at the moment, because there were 54 rushes out of 89 plays. That's not balanced. That's 35 passing plays. I know that may seem like a large number, but the majority of the offense is running the football on first down. That's predictable. You don't stay ahead of the chains that way. And for a quarterback like Sean White, who, in my opinion, is just average as far as passing is concerned, staying ahead of the chains is crucial. You don't want to be in 3rd and long situations, or else he's not just going to get it done. And that's what happened all night long is they would get a first down or two, the drive would get stifled because they couldn't stay ahead of the chains.
So do you change quarterback?
Yeah, I think you have to at this moment.
Yeah, all right. Well, my issue with it is I don't really necessarily agree with some of the play calling. I think they need to be thrown across the middle a little bit more. Sean White is good enough to throw it across the middle, I think. I don't know. We haven't seen it much this year. We saw J5 go in, and the offense looked more productive, more explosive, more of what we're used to seeing with Gus Malzahn's offense. Fact of the matter is they're just not doing much. The defense is playing well enough to get us wins. They're playing all right. They haven't get as many turnovers I'd like them to see, but they're playing well enough to get us wins. That game this past weekend against Texas A&M, even what they did 3 weeks ago against Clemson, good enough to win. The offense just wasn't there.
But my only question for you is how much of John Franklin III's production was because it was garbage time or because it was actual talent? Because a lot of times you see him drop back to pass. A&M's in a prevent, cover 4 defense. Zone coverage is way down the field, and John Franklin would just take off as soon as it snapped. There weren't really any designed read option runs for him except at the beginning of the drive when he first took over in the 4th quarter, midway through the 4th quarter. So I don't know how much of it was actually John Franklin III's talent. I think it was more of possibly just it being garbage time at Texas A&M playing off defensively.
I honestly have no idea. There's a lot of things going on there in the game. How hard was Texas A&M really trying? I don't really know. I'd like to see more out of J5. Though.
There's a reason why J5 wasn't named the starting quarterback, and we haven't really found that out yet. But when we do, it will be evident, I feel like.
For sure. Looking ahead, this upcoming Saturday, Auburn hosts the Tigers of LSU. Let's get a score prediction, and also what are some keys do you think Auburn's going to need to be competitive even for both sides of the ball, especially on defense?
I like to think that Auburn's going to win. I'm hoping, being a little optimistic, about 24-21. Obviously, the huge key is just score points.
Right.
Our defense matches up great with them in the sense that our linebackers and D-line have been playing, especially linebackers have been playing exceptional, way better than anyone thought because it's inexperienced group, And LSU is obviously not very competent throwing the ball, and they benched Brandon Harris last week and are starting, I believe, a true freshman at quarterback. So as long as we can load the box and shut down Fournette and I think our defense will play fine. We just need to be able to move the ball some sort. Score any points.
I'm going to go 20-13 LSU, mainly because I don't see Auburn being able to score 3 touchdowns in your scenario against LSU's defense. They haven't been able to do it yet this season, really, unless it was against Arkansas State, which definitely occurred, 51 points. But they just haven't been able to get it done offensively, moving the football around the field. LSU's got speed all across the board defensively, and that's going to be a problem. And also, Auburn doesn't even know who they're starting at quarterback at the moment. So it's kind of hard to pick Auburn when you don't know who the starting quarterback is. Also, to your point about LSU and us being able to stop the run, LSU, hey, Leonard Fournette makes the dream work. And Texas A&M averaged over 6 yards per carry against Auburn this past week. I have a feeling Leonard Fournette could add a couple more yards to that average. I definitely worry for the Auburn Tigers in this game defensively.
Yeah, for me, it was, you saw the big thing there was the freshman quarterback starting. I like our defensive backs. They're good. I think they're aggressive. I think they should jump some of the routes, try to get some turnovers, get an interception, get that offense going. I'd like to see more of the running game, more of the passing game across the middle, the deep ball. It hasn't been there. Big plays for Auburn have not been there. 20-plus yards, it hasn't happened. You have a couple of games we need more, and that's how our offense works. As far as the score, I got, I think, 17-9. I really don't think it's going to go that well, though. I don't like.
So is that an LSU win?
Yeah, that's an LSU.
17?
Yeah,
so
that's an LSU win.
That
Sorry.
reminds me a lot of the 2012 Tiger Bowl, as it's called. You know,
Yeah.
when they came here in 2012 in that awful season.
Yeah.
A lot of defense, but the offense was just that bad. And this year's already kind of showing signs of that kind of season early on in the year.
I don't like Auburn's chances to score touchdowns this week. I really don't. After the break, we'll discuss another member of our panel just joining us today. The biggest games of the upcoming weekend on Eagle Eye TV, Channel 6.
I hope that you've been able to learn a strong work ethic surrounded by character, integrity, perseverance, so that when your 1 second comes, you'll be prepared for it.
Chris Davis.
45, there goes Davis!
Your 1 second, our 1 second is now. And our lives have been guided by the principles of one of the greatest academic institutions in the country, Auburn University.
As we move to predicting this weekend's biggest games, we welcome into the show Brooks Childress. He is a co-host on The Extra Point, a sports talk show that can be heard on WGL 91.1. Brooks, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here and looking forward to predicting some games and hopefully getting most of them right.
Well, we're only a little bit happy that you're here, but it's still nice to see you again. Now it's time to make some picks. Thursday, number 5 Clemson travels to take on Georgia Tech. Who do you guys have?
Well, it's going to be a hard game. Clemson has not looked as good as everyone said they were going to look throughout the year. I think it's going to be a struggle for Clemson. That being said, they pulled it out against the powerhouse that is Troy, and I think they'll pull it out barely against Georgia Tech.
All right, well, give me the Ramblin' Wreck. I'll take Georgia Tech in that one. I really don't think that Clemson's been that well. I'm pulling out on Georgia. I'm waving the white flag on Clemson. I don't think they're that great anymore. I thought they were going to be really well this year, and they just haven't performed. The offense is just not explosive at all.
I'm going to say Clemson. I mean, the offense had its troubles in its first 2 games, but I think you have to highlight their defense here, and it's going to be stifling. Georgia Tech's triple option is going to have a hard time getting going. They won't be able to score points, and I'm still very confident in Deshaun Watson and Mike Williams to get things going. I mean, they did score a lot of points last weekend. Mind you, it was against South Carolina State, but still I think good enough to get the W this week.
I think that Clemson's going to pull it out, but just barely. Georgia Tech's offense actually diced a very strong Vanderbilt defense last week for 38 points. So I do think that Clemson does pull this out because with a player like Deshaun Watson, I think he makes enough plays just at the end of the game to win it. But I think this game being at Georgia Tech really helps Georgia Tech in that they hang till late. But I do think Clemson pulls it out.
Moving on to Friday, the 1-2 USC Trojans traveling to Utah to take on the 24th ranked Utes, who are 3-0.
Tough one.
It's really a tough one. I had so much hope for USC. I want USC to be back. I want there to be a big West Coast power. Mm-hmm. It's not this year. I think Utah wins this one by double digits.
I think you're right. I was thinking the USC, this might be USC's year. After that game against Alabama, they got embarrassed. I don't think that they've been demoralized. Give me Utah on that one as well.
This is a big game for Utah. If Utah can make a statement here against a perennial powerhouse throughout their history, the USC Trojans, Kyle Whittingham really will be solidified as this great coach, one of the greatest coaches for Utah. He's going to have them ready for Friday Night Lights.
I think Utah also. I just simply haven't seen anything from USC to tell me otherwise, especially the Alabama game that just got manhandled. So I think against any real competition, they're going to really struggle.
Now on to the Saturday slate of games. Starting in the SEC, you've got the 12th ranked Georgia Bulldogs, who are 3-0, going to Oxford to take on the 23rd ranked Ole Miss Rebels.
This is going to be one heck of a football game. Georgia, under first-year head coach Kirby Smart, against Hugh Freeze at Ole Miss. Ole Miss almost, I thought they could have won that game against Alabama Saturday. They should have won. But
Should have beat Florida State, too.
They should have beat Florida State. They let them come back. I'm going to go Ole Miss wins this one fairly handily, handing Kirby Smart his first head coaching loss.
I think you're right, Chad Kelly. I think while he's shown some inexperience, which is you wouldn't really expect because he's had so much experience, he looks like an inexperienced quarterback. I think they should have beat Florida State. They should have beat Alabama. I think they will do well against Georgia. I think Georgia's overhyped. Give me Ole Miss.
I don't know if I'd go as far as to say that Ole Miss should have beat Florida State and should have beat Alabama. Those are two of the best teams in the country until Florida State did get dropped this past week. But at the time, I think we all were under that impression. Ole Miss put up a lot of points on a very talented Alabama defense. I'm going to take Ole Miss on this one. They're a whole lot better than 1-2.
I think Ole Miss also. I think more importantly than Ole Miss playing well this year, even in their 2 losses, is how really underwhelming Georgia's been to me. They really struggled against Nicholls State 2 weeks ago, and then they barely pulled it out against a very subpar Missouri team at essentially a neutral site game because Missouri's stadium was about 3/4 full, if that, pushing it. So I think that, I think Kirby Smart gets his first loss, and I think Ole Miss puts up a lot of points. I think Chad Kelly has a good game, and they put up points and win.
Awesome.
Moving on to the Big Ten, Wisconsin, Michigan State, Sparty pulling off a big win last weekend against the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, riding high in here, but Wisconsin, the higher ranked of the 2 teams, can Sparty pull the upset?
I don't think so. Ole Miss, or not Ole Miss, we're going back to the other game. Michigan State, they almost let Notre Dame come back and beat them Saturday night. It was closer than what it looked like at halftime. Wisconsin, I've bought into Wisconsin. They look like the real deal right now. They've beaten LSU first game of the year. I think Wisconsin wins it, not by much. I'm going to say like 7-10.
I'll take Sparty in a very close one. I think they did have a close game against Notre Dame. They almost let them come back. They're not going to let that happen. Wisconsin is good, not great. I really think Sparty's going to have something working up there.
Wisconsin's anything but convincing right now. Barely pulling off a win against Georgia State at home is atrocious to me. Michigan State beat Notre Dame on the road. They went to South Bend and took down the Irish. That's very hard to do, no matter how bad Notre Dame may or may not be. I mean, they're still a talented football team. And I'm going to take Sparty in this one. I think they're going to overwhelm the Badgers.
I'm going to take the Spartans here as well. I really think that Notre Dame's a better team than people are thinking. They really hung with Texas, and so I think that was a good win. And Wisconsin, while that LSU win looked great at the time, really the more and more CSC play, it's just not that great of a win, honestly. They're one-dimensional offense, so I'm taking the Spartans in this one.
Now, switching attention to a game that means a lot to our producer, JJ Jackson. The Florida Gators taking on the Tennessee Volunteers, 2 teams undefeated. Tennessee having not won this game in over 10 years now. Volunteers looking for this W. Can they get it, guys?
Oh, this game, it kind of pains me because Florida coming in. Before this week, I would have said Florida, guaranteed, because Tennessee has not looked as good as everyone says they were at the beginning of the year. But they're coming in without their starting quarterback. Del Rio is out for 2 to 3 weeks right now. It's going to be close. I think if Tennessee doesn't find a way to blow it, like they've been known to do in the past, it's going to be a Tennessee game by 3.
I'll take Tennessee in this one, but not because Tennessee is good, but because Florida is missing their quarterback. Tennessee, I'm done. I thought Tennessee was going to be good this year. I had them in my playoff. I don't have them this year anymore. They're done. I'm done. I'm waving the white flag on Tennessee as well. Florida should be winning that game, but without their quarterback, I don't think they'll be able to do it. So Tennessee, but look for Tennessee to start losing some games here soon.
I'm with you guys. Del Rio played in this game. The first 2 weeks, Florida looked pretty good. I mean, struggled with UMass week 1, but finally pulled away and then absolutely destroyed Kentucky. I will say this, though. You can't pull the plug on Tennessee in the East. at least for the East crown, because is Georgia or Florida going to beat them? If we're picking Tennessee to beat Florida here, Georgia's not capable, and then nobody else in the East is either. Will I put Tennessee in my playoff anymore? No way, but Tennessee's still good enough to beat Florida and the other East schools.
I'm going to take the Gators in this one because Josh Dobbs has just really underwhelmed me. Has not been nearly as efficient as I thought he was going to be this year. He's been great running the ball, but they just really have no sort of passing game right now. And obviously they've really struggled against the mighty Ohio Bobcats last week, and then first week in Knoxville against App State, a team that Miami just dismantled. So it's not like App State's some powerhouse either. They dismantled them at App State. So Tennessee hasn't shown me anything. While Florida's missing their quarterback, I think their defense makes enough plays against a relatively one-dimensional Tennessee offense with Jalen Hurd at running back. I think they kind of contain him, and that the Gators pull this one out in Neyland Stadium.
Now we're going to switch out a little bit farther west into the Southwest. We've got Arkansas and Texas A&M taking on each other. Big game for the SEC West picture, guys. Who gets the W?
I think Texas A&M is quietly one of, if not the second best team in the SEC West at this point in the season. And Arkansas had to barely win against Louisiana Tech. They did go in and beat TCU, but in overtime, and it was because of a blocked field goal. And I see Texas A&M going in and continuing their run through the SEC West and beating Arkansas by, I'm going to pull Lee Corso. They're going to win by a safety.
Oh my gosh! Oh my god! You know, I like what he's saying. I'm just going to give a conversational retweet on the whole thing. I think Texas A&M is really good. They're very quietly going to go through this SEC West schedule here. I think they're really good. I like Texas A&M in this one by 2 safeties. I'll give them 2 safeties, 4 points.
I'm going to defer with you guys on this one. I'm going to go with the Arkansas Razorbacks on the road. Brett Bielema's squad took on a similar team in TCU a couple weeks ago, and they were able to go on the road and win. I think this is a similar squad at Texas A&M, if not possibly a little bit worse. I don't think they're as good as 10 makes them sound. They looked good this past week, but I still think a little bit overrated. I'm going to take Arkansas. That ground and pound game, going to definitely get the W.
I think that Arkansas will hang late, but I think Texas A&M pulls it out mainly because it's in College Station, so the hostile environment will really play in their favor. But I think Arkansas will move the ball because as Auburn improved last week with Petway, you can move the ball with power rushing offense against this A&M defense, and Arkansas kind of prides himself on that. So I think they do move the ball, but A&M makes enough plays late in College Station to win this one.
Awesome. Straight ahead, we answer some trivia questions. Is Noah the Ocho Gardner as smart as he appears on TV? You're watching Eagle Eye TV, Channel 6. Welcome back to AU Nation. Let's answer some trivia questions. Each panelist will get 4 questions worth 1 point each. The 5th and final question will be asked to all the panelists and is worth 5 points. This is all very exciting, and let's see if Noah really is as smart as he thinks he is. All right, first question is directed at you, Keith. We started this week by learning that the high-octane NFL quarterback would be moving on over to injured reserve after his first start with his new team. Who is that quarterback?
Robert Griffin III.
That is correct for 1 point for Keith. Moving on, Noah, your first question. In his first NFL professional football game back in Los Angeles on Monday Night Football last week, the Rams lost to who? What team did the Rams lose to week 1?
The Rams lost to the San Francisco 49ers.
That is correct. Noah, that is 1 point for you. Brooks, your first question. An exciting Thursday Night Football action. This week's became the first to be live streamed on the internet on the media outlet. What is that media outlet?
Oh, I think that's the one that I have 76 followers on, Twitter.
Twitter is correct. Keith, your second question, excuse me. In addition to the Rams opening up their new stadium, this team also christened their new stadium Sunday Night Football last night. Who is that team?
Oh, who did they play?
Who's the team that opened up their new stadium last night?
Oh, gosh, drawing a blank here. Passing it on to Noah.
Minnesota Vikings.
The Minnesota Vikings. Noah steals a question. Then Noah gets a bonus question here. This NFL team will have to man up and get over the overblown, excuse me, this is a lot of words here. This NFL team will have to man up and get over the obviously blown runner was down, but fumble wasn't overturned fourth quarter call we might remember yesterday, on Sunday. Who is that team that had that
The
call
Cincinnati Bengals.
Against, for a bonus point,
The
again, who are they
Pittsburgh
playing?
Steelers.
Oh, I'm just giving out bonus points how I want.
The knee
I'm
was
just taking
down,
over.
by the way. The
I'm
knee
just-
was down.
The knee was down. Preseason NBA mini camps are starting up this week, and the reigning NBA champs got a word this player would miss training camp due to his ongoing contract dispute. Who is that player?
Well, I think it's not because of the contract, because he still can't find his shirt. That's J.R. Smith.
Oh, man. I'm just going to start giving out bonus points. Should I start doing that? I like that. All right,
like
Keith, your third question. Meanwhile, in college football, Louisville downright woodshed then the number 2 Florida State Seminoles, embarrassing the Noles with a blank point victory, and it's multiple choice. So how many points did they win by? Is it 25, 33, or 43?
It's 43.
43 points. That is correct.
I'm glad you can do standard subtraction.
He can do math. That is good.
We're not math majors here, but we can do
And on the
standard.
subject of teams winning by a lot of points, this other lopsided victory had overwhelmed opponents so much at halftime the two sides decided to play a shortened second half. Was it Clemson, Michigan, or Miami? Played a shortened second half.
I'm going to go
because
with
it was
Clemson.
It was Clemson. Who were they playing?
South Carolina State
Do you remember the
University.
score?
I think the final score was 57-0.
Okay. All right. Do you know the score at halftime?
I do not know what the score was at
45 to
halftime.
nothing. I'm just
But was I
testing
right
it.
though? It was
You were right.
57-0?
You're right. So I'm just testing it. I'm just testing it as much as I can here.
That powerhouse South
All
Carolina
right,
State.
Brooks. A quick check on to college hoops here. Has this East Coast team fired its coach after allegations of player abuse? Is it George Washington, Florida Atlantic, or Boston College? Who fired their coach?
You know, I think the guy that this school is named after, our first president, would be disappointed in this, in the coach's actions. I'm going George
I
Washington.
like the bonus information he gives there. The shirt, the first president. That is good. I like that. All right, Keith, your fourth and final question here. The FCS juggernaut North Dakota State continues to prove they are for real, as this week the Bison knocked off a ranked team from this conference on the road.
They knocked off the Iowa Hawkeyes,
What conference?
Big Ten.
Oh my goodness, he knows it.
And they are now 6-0 against last 6 FBS teams.
Bonus information. I love it. Look at this. All right, Noah, your final question. Meanwhile, the baseball season continues on as this team becomes the first to win its division this past week.
The Chicago Cubs.
Wow, look at him go. All right, Brooks, your fourth and final question. This MLB team has sent its GM to the room, aka suspension, for 30 games for wrongfully tampering with a trade of a pitcher. What team was that?
Well, that would be the San Diego Padres.
I'm sorry to Evan Blank, who of course couldn't be here because his car ran out of gas. He is a Padres fan. Last time I saw him, he was wearing the Padres cap. All right, the final question, bonus question here for everyone, worth 5 points and could give anybody the win. Week 2 of the NFL season saw a lot of points scored, excluding Thursday night's Bills versus Jets game, Monday Night Football. What was the total number of points scored by all teams in NFL's games on Sunday? So I want a total number of points just scored on Sunday, and I'll give you a little hint. The range is between 600 and 650 points. Whoever gets the closest without going over will win the 5 points and will win the game.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say 639 points.
639 for Keith. Noah?
I'm going to go 621, but I just have to say we can do standard subtraction, but not standard addition.
621?
Yes, 621.
All right, Brooks?
I'm going to go right down the middle, 625.
625. All right, well, how about this? We're going to take another guess because everybody was over. So I'm going to give you another range, 600 to 625. Go a little bit lower here. Do not go over.
All right, let's go 612.
612?
611.
611? Oh, my goodness.
615.
615. 613.
Oh, goodness.
Keith stealing it with the bonus point there. Noah had the most points in the regular 4 round of questions here, but Keith with the 5-point bonus question wins it. Congrats to Keith for winning today's prestigious trivia challenge. You get a big hug from me later. Coming up, we will
Rob,
tackle
wait.
the burning question.
This is a place where it only takes a second to imagine your future. Grasp a new concept in class. Inspire a child's curiosity. Discover a real-world solution. Seize an unexpected opportunity.
There goes Davis.
This is where you gain the preparation, confidence, and determination to succeed. This is Auburn.
Last week, the Atlantic Coast Conference decided to remove conference championship events from North Carolina due to the controversial House Bill 2. For those of you who don't know, HB 2 is an anti-transgender bill that gives them no legal right to use public restrooms of the gender which they identify. The ACC decision includes the football conference championship games scheduled for December 3rd in Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte. The ACC's decision comes after the NCAA's decision to remove first and second round men's basketball tournament games from Greensboro, and the NBA's decision earlier this summer to move the 2017 All-Star Game from Charlotte to New Orleans. Guys, your feelings about the bill aside, should politics interfere with sports?
This is a tricky question because what I see, in my opinion, is it's a discriminatory bill that they've put out there, and what I see is that the leagues, NBA, NCAA, anyone else that decides to pull from North Carolina is doing it against the discriminatory part of the bill, and they're pulling money. They're saying we're not going to give money to we're not going to bring revenue into the state that's discriminating against these the people.
But in a way, is that not punishing institutions and private organizations or also public organizations that have no control over the politics whatsoever?
I mean, yes and no.
Money does go out to the Carolina Panthers for leasing the stadium to the ACC for these championship events. I mean, in a way, it is punishing the Panthers for the politics that they have no control over.
Yeah.
Well, if you look at how politics work, you can lobby for, and if the Panthers want that, if they want the ACC championship game money back in their pockets, they can send their lobbyists. They can get lobbyists in to go into the North Carolina House of Representatives and Senate and lobby that they have the bill changed, or else we're not going to be giving you money for your politics.
Right. The thing is, the NCAA, the NBA, and all these other sports organizations, NFL, what have you, are going to start taking things out of North Carolina because they don't like this bill. They don't want to be associated with it. And they're forcing these sports teams, the Carolina Panthers, whoever, to maybe try to change the bill. But I don't like it. I don't like the public, I don't have an issue with NFL. If NFL is going to send lobbyists to Congress to go change the bill, I'm okay with that. But I don't like it saying we're not going to play this sport here because of this bill. The sport has nothing to do with the bill. What does this sport have anything to do with it at all? I just don't get it. I don't want to think about politics when I'm watching sports.
I wouldn't say that the politics doesn't have anything to do with the bill, because these people do. It does affect the game day experience. And so it does have something to do with it, but why not the NCAA or the NFL send lobbyists to the North Carolina Congress to handle the bill and to possibly get it erased? But at the same time, you're also punishing institutions like Duke and North Carolina, and there have been games that have been getting pulled, people not wanting to sign up on their schedule. That's money that goes out of their pocket, and they have no control over the politics, and that's what I disagree with. It's pushing a political agenda into the public where they have no control over it whatsoever.
I agree with that in the sense that the institution shouldn't get punished. The NCAA actually is pulling 7 total championship events from the state of North Carolina, so just really taking away the revenue from these institutions. But I think large picture, we got to put into perspective. It's a game. It's sports. It's game. I'm sick of watching ESPN and feeling like I'm watching CNN or Fox News. It's just all about, with all the national anthem and all that stuff. I just think politics is getting way too involved in a game. We're watching it for entertainment. I think people want to see it to calm down and just enjoy the game for what it is.
Yeah, I agree completely.
That does it for AU Nation today. Thanks for watching here on Eagle Eye TV Channel 6. We'll see you next week. Peace.